Getting press for your business is incredibly important. So what happens when you're writing an article for a website, a blog, a magazine, etc.? Who is retaining ownership of that? Who has the copyright? What rights are you giving up or retaining for yourself? Today we're talking to everybody's favorite entertainment and IP lawyer, Tony, to find out more.
Hi, my name is Tony Iliakostas. I'm an adjunct professor of entertainment law and IP at New York Law School, and I have an Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok account called the IP Professor that is dedicated to all things intellectual property.
We talk a lot about getting press as entrepreneurs and writing for big magazines and websites and blogs. But when it comes to writing for these content creators, what do we need to know about ownership? Who's in charge? What do we need to know about copyright? Can you break this down for us, Tony?
Yeah, so this is all going to depend primarily on what your arrangement is with the dedicated publication that agreed to solicit articles from you. Sometimes it would be done in the form of a formalized agreement. If it didn't happen that way, it's not ideal, but maybe an email exchange with some finalization of terms would be helpful as well. And I've had some fair share of freelance work in the writing space myself when I used to work for Dan Abrams and his Law and Crime Network blog before it was called Law News. But I used to do sports law blogs, and in that situation, it's kind of mutually understood by me and my editor that whatever I created at the end of the day was a work product of lawnews.com, which is now Law and Crime. So I think that this is all going to boil down to, again, what is arranged. And the reason why that's important is because it's going to depend on whether or not you're acting as an independent contractor or if what you're doing is a work for hire situation. So work for hires, you probably heard that term many a time, but essentially it's where you hire somebody and they're acting as a de facto employee of that specific organization. They may be a full-time employee of that organization, but they also may not be. But the agreement between, in this case, writer and publisher could be written in such a way where the writer is acting as a work for hire for this publication. They put out a work product, they spend time on research and writing and editing, and then ultimately what the publisher does is they publish it, but the copyright ownership has been conveyed from the writer over to the publisher. And so that's kind of the general norm in the writing industry, especially in newspapers, where, when a newspaper article comes out, obviously the tagline, the byline is credited to the writer that wrote that article, and rightfully so, but they were doing it as under the employ of the New York Times or under the employ of the Washington Post or under the employ of NBC News or CBS News, some other outlet. So I think that's the main takeaway with these types of situations. Understanding what your relationship is. If it is a work for hire situation, knowing that you can't really obtain copyright ownership because now that's handed over to the publication. If you are in fact acting as an independent contractor, it's a different story now. Now you own the copyright to that article. It's just that the distributor of your article agreed to publish it without retaining copyright ownership. And now that could be something that you could keep in your back pocket. Maybe you can register that in the Copyright Office, have that protected, and call it a day.
That's interesting because I first off didn't realize that you could actually copyright protect articles. That's really good to know. If you guys need further information on how to do copyright, we've got lots of episodes down below. We'll link those for you. Make sure you check those out. And if you've got questions, of course, drop those. But we also want to make sure that we're aware of when we're writing for these different corporations that for the most part, we are handing over that copyright to them. With that in mind, Tony, do we have any guidance over this on what they are and are not allowed to do? Or is it just a blanket? We've handed it to them. They're in charge, and what they do with it, they now do with it.
Yeah, it's pretty much the latter situation here. They're, a work for hire situation pretty much does not provide any sort of, I guess, exceptions to the rule, if you call it that. Now, in the writing space, what a lot of people rely on is having a portfolio. So I think there is a world where, publisher isn't going to be an inhuman monster and say, oh, well, you can't have access to these articles to showcase to others. I think, again, having that byline is a coveted spot for a lot of writers. So certainly they can accrue a portfolio of different articles that they've contributed on behalf of a publication, and then they can go and shop around if they wanted to take their talents elsewhere and do something with that. But at the end of the day, whatever work product they create for specific publication, that's theirs. It's theirs to keep, and so on and so forth. Now, I did want to go back also about the copyright registration for the articles, though, because there, I mean, it would seem kind of weird, right? That a report maybe about facts, like, this place was bombed and 50 people died, God forbid, or this celebrity was caught, having an affair with another celebrity, in your typical tabloid story. Those reports, have facts, but what's being protected is the collective whole, right? So it's the way the story is being told, the arrangement of that information, but the facts themselves are not protected because facts are never protected under copyright law. So that's the essence of what's being protected. I would say that if we're talking about what has the most protection in the copyright scale when it comes to articles, opinion pieces are going to have the most protection because, again, it's an opinion driven type of writing. It's based on thought and perception and interviews and so on. All of that is something that at the end of the day it is so robust in that originality prong of the copyright and definition, that it just feels like it's going to get the strongest protection under copyright law. That said, we've talked about it before. The lowest threshold of originality is all that's needed to satisfy copyright protection. So even just writing a story about facts and having a few interviews embellished in there is still going to be enough to get that article also protected as a copyrighted work.
So if we are going to be working with these entities and creating content for them, knowing we're going to be giving away our copyright to the content we are creating, it is always important to read the contract that they are giving to us. And if there is no contract that they're physically handing to us in whatever communications form we have, it's always going to be something you need to go to the terms of service on their website, where they will be spelling these things out. And if you cannot find that, you can, of course, ask for that. And if they don't have that, perhaps it's time to run, correct?
I think that's right. I was actually going to say, don't walk, run.
Let's have that out of there. Yep. You want to make sure that you are legally protected and you understand your legal rights for this, especially when you are giving up your work to work with another entity. If you have further questions on this, go ahead and drop those down below. And as always, Tony is an endless fount of information on his social media platforms where you can also reach out to him. So, Tony, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at the IP Professor.
Hit that subscribe and notification bell for daily videos helping you to navigate social media platforms and the online business space. We're dropping daily videos to make sure that you're making more money online, spending less time doing it, and we're also going to be bringing you more legal episodes with Tony. So drop your topics down below or questions that you have and follow along. In the next episode, we're going to continue to help you level up inside of your business. We'll see you there.